I wanted to put a bow on the Nico, Iamaleava, UCLA, Tennessee. We got so many different angles here. So I wanted to put a bow on all this. But I want to be honest. Everyone be honest with me. 98% of you just want what's best for college football. I've got a lot of Tennessee fans who are watching, and they're saying, no, I want what's best for Tennessee. Well, of course, everyone wants what's best for their team. But really, what's best for college football is what's best for Tennessee and Oklahoma and Washington State and everyone else. So we want a world where college football is thriving, right? That's what I want. That's what my general correspondence with you guys leads me to believe that you want. Which brings me to the conclusion of this whole thing. And I wrote 2 words down on the piece of paper that I keep finding myself saying. It's a weird couple of words because I'm not necessarily sure this is the energy I thought we were headed towards. But after all the dust is settled on this, I can't help but say thank you. And it's been a tire fire of a story. So the last words you would think would come out of anyone's mouth who loves this sport are thank you. But yet, I'm thankful. I'm thankful because I do believe in the concept of shocking the system into action. And if anything was ever going to shock the college football system into action, if anything was going to pull the last remaining holdouts into the fray and convince them we got a big, possibly terminal issue with parts of this game, this was it. This was, as I said the other day, this is the peeling the eyelids open, stapling them to the forehead, grabbing someone by both sides of the head and forcing them to watch and acknowledge this is a disaster. It's not getting any better. And you know what? They did. And you know what? There's a lot of action behind the scenes that wasn't necessarily in motion 10 or 12 days ago because of this. So you've got, imagine being one of the last remaining people who's just sitting on the sideline, technically with the power to do stuff, but saying, oh, it'll just work itself out. And then Nico tries to renegotiate, or let me be very, very clear, Nico's people try to renegotiate a deal in December, and then they try again in spring, and then he's a holdout at the end of spring practice, and then Heupel and Tennessee cut ties with him, and then he winds up at UCLA, only for the kid who just transferred to UCLA from App State to go back in the portal and now land at Tennessee in what's labeled as a trade, but it's really not because that's not how trade mechanisms work. And all the while, Nico's brother just enrolled at Arkansas, and he hits the portal before he's ever played a down there. And now he's at UCLA, and Arkansas saying, wait a second, we want buyout money. You need to pay us because you broke your contract. None of that's college football. None of that is how college football or college athletics are supposed to work. Everybody knows that. It's just that some people wanted to bury their head in the sand for a long time and say, it's just a phase. Oh, don't worry, the market will correct itself. I'm sure it's like shaking up this Zevia here. Yeah, once you pop the top on it, it's going to spew all over the place, but after you clean the mess up, it'll be okay and you can drink it and nothing's wrong. Nope. That's not what's happening here. That's not what's happening at all. This isn't all due respect to Zevia. This isn't a can of Zevia. This is a volcano. And once it erupts, the town's destroyed. So yes, technically it'll subside, but I'm not sure you'll like what's left once it does. So, hey, quick timeout. Check and see if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're not, I humbly ask that you click subscribe. It's free. It doesn't sign you up for anything. What it does is it helps us keep this show free so we can just do college football year round. All right, back to the clip. There's the football angle, which we've got plenty of time to talk about, but then there's the real-world college football angle. So the real-world college football angle, to me, is not, do we have a problem? Well, of course we do. We've had one for a while. The question is not, do most people realize it? Most people did. I think everyone realizes it now. The question is not, are there unqualified figures posing as agents in this sport, steering guys down all form of wrong direction? Of course there are. Probably a lot more awareness about that now than there was this time last month, but that's okay. Is college football in an untenable situation when there really are no rules? No one knows what the landscape consists of because there is no consistency in the landscape. Of course that's a problem. But you know what? That's on everyone's radar now. So then the follow-up question, I was doing radio today. A solid friend of the program, Buck Rising, asked me, who's going to save college football? It's one thing to acknowledge there are problems, Who's going to save college football? And as much as people talk about the NCAA, it ain't them. It hadn't been them for a long time. As much as people talk about college football league commissioners, they do play a much bigger role. University presidents play a huge role in this, but you know who else has a ton of skin in the game? I'd say the people who are paying billions of dollars to broadcast the games. I'd say it's probably in their best interest to do whatever it takes to save the sport or fix the sport as well. Wouldn't you? Imagine you run ESPN, or you run Fox, or you run CBS, or you run any other network or entity that may in the future invest heavily in college football. Did you really pay those billions of dollars to just watch the value of the asset go up in smoke? I don't really think you did. So how do you fix it? Well, you have an all hands on deck mentality, and if it means lobbying Congress, you're experts at it. These people aren't. College football athletic directors, all due respect, have no clue about that. They're brand new to that game. You're not. You're not. You've been in that game for a long time. If it comes to greasing the right wheels, you've been doing that for a long time. Pulling the right levers, leveraging the right people, you've been doing that for a long time, and you better do it now. I speak this way because I know they already are, but you better do it now because I don't think you spent those billions on those assets to have them deteriorate in value as soon as the check cleared. And you got to look around and realize something right now. If you're a major network, I know these are the last people you want the fate of the sport's hands put in, but if you're a major network, you got to understand, if you're in business with the NFL's not letting this happen. But the NFL has leadership. College football doesn't really have that. It's not that college football doesn't have people capable of leading. It's that the structure of college football is such that the platform is too unsteady for any one person or one small group of people to stand on it without it falling, because it doesn't bear the brunt of legal weight right now, whereas the NFL's would. So, I mean, out of all the other questions, hey, where do the networks fit in on this? They're always painted as the devil. Well, where do the networks fit in for once in more of a savior's mentality of understanding, yeah, we got a role to play here. And unlike some other folks who could take it or leave it, you got a vested interest in it to the tune of many, many, many zeros. You got a vested interest in it. Now, as for the football part of all this, because believe it or not, that is what this revolves around, I need to talk to my Tennessee folks. I think UCLA is going to be bad with or without Nico this year. Their over-under win total, I think, went up to 5.5 with Nico on board. So there's that. But at Tennessee, I had a friend earlier today, Tennessee fan, Tennessee grad. He hit me and he's talking about, the worst case scenario. They've added Aguilar from UCLA by way of App State. So Joey Aguilar, we hadn't talked about him enough. He was at App State. He transferred to UCLA like 5 minutes ago. And then Nico lands out there and he says, well, I'm not staying here. So now he's at Tennessee. So Tennessee's QB went to UCLA. UCLA's quarterback went to Tennessee. Much ado about nothing, right? And so my buddy hits me and he says, man, what if the worst were to happen this year? What if they go 8-4? And I said, excuse me? The worst? Being 8-4? They may have gone 8-4 with Nico. The worst? You don't know much about Tennessee football if you think the worst is 8-4. This is a very, very new concept in the modern age. Tennessee having the audacity to fancy itself a perennial playoff contender. Like, you can criticize Josh Heupel or credit Josh Heupel. You need to understand he pulled you out of the wilderness is what you need to understand. Tennessee football was an afterthought for a decade and a half because they couldn't get out of their own way. And Josh Heupel came in there. They were in the playoff last year. You can remember them getting their skull crushed in by the eventual national champ. But you know what? They were there. Where was Alabama last year? Tennessee was there. So that's a new concept. So to sit there, and I had this conversation with my buddy, so I'm just reiterating what I said. 8-4 is not the worst case scenario. I think their win total is 8.5 right now. So no, the worst case is like a Florida State implosion. Okay, probably not that bad. But the worst case is you miss a bowl game. That's the worst case. Because with Nico or without Nico, you still had over 160 starts to replace on your offensive line. With or without Nico, you had questions at wide receiver. questions at running back. You're retooling your defense. You need to understand, man, and I'm talking to my buddy, but anyone who thinks this way, the ice is so much thinner in this sport than you ever think it is. You don't get to carry over success. Like, because you made the playoff last year, it doesn't raise the floor to where, all right, now on the low end, we're an 8-win team. No, on the low end, you're still a 4-win team. You're not immune to disaster just because you made the playoff last year. So I believe in Josh Heupel, but I believe Josh Heupel had a tall order on his hands even if Nico stayed this year. In a funny way, I got a theory about Heupel that, not that this was a grand design or by any stretch of the imagination, but for all we know, he had a rough season incoming no matter what, that will now be able to be excused away because of all this. It's like if you had a bad season during the COVID year, everyone's willing to look at it and say, yeah, that was a COVID year though. I mean, if Tennessee goes 7-5 this year, I think a lot of people would be willing to look at it, not like it, but say, yeah, but that was when all the Nico stuff happened. Remember that? Like by 2030, if they pull the nose right back up after this year, that's the way people would be willing to look at that season. I don't know that they would be willing to do that if Nico was still there. But 8-4, worst case, whew, man, how quickly people forget.